Okay.
Well, Peter, I could very happily watch you draw all day, but I will get killed by my producer if I don't ask some questions. So, firstly, you played quite a different Doctor in Series 9 than the one we saw in Series 8. What was the thinking behind this?
I think people just wanted to sort of warm them up a little bit, given that I think the actual process of regeneration is probably quite a bizarre one, and when you probably don't know who you are yourself. And I think as it was a new regeneration cycle, it probably was more of a shock than usual to him. I think he didn't know who he was. I quite like actually the slightly darker kind of Doctor who was around in my first season. But the new one, let's call him the new one, who was in the new scene, he's funnier, you know, and you know, I'm quite light-hearted myself most of the time. So I think we just wanted to do more gags and have more of a laugh. But it's trying to keep both of those things alive. That's the challenge of Doctor Who, you know, is to try and be likeable and also rather alien and strange and distant, you know, because he is, and he should be. He's not a human being, and he should have something of this character that I'm drawing now in him.
When you fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die. You don't know whose children are going to scream and burn. How many hearts will be broken? How many lives shattered? How much blood will spill until everybody does what they were always going to have to do from the very beginning? Sit down and talk!
Well, let's talk about that speech in the Zygon inversion, which is not only one of the Doctor's greatest speeches, but it's also transcended the show and it's been shared on social media. I mean, how does this make you feel?
I feel very privileged to have been able to say that speech. It was written by Peter Harness, and probably Stephen had a hand in it as well. There were great words to say. You never know when you do something how it's going to turn out. But to have such a vocal attack on the idea of war is so rare, weirdly, in our culture now. And it was so right for the Doctor to do it. It was just a thrill to do. And funnily enough, on the day we did it, the American ambassador was visiting us. Can you believe that we get the American ambassador comes to visit, and they had a whole entourage of security men and all that sort of stuff. But when I finished it, the first time I did it, it was about, you know, it's about 9 pages long. So remembering it is the hard thing. And I'd always sort of try and do it all in one go. But it was very sweet. The first time I did it, there was a round of applause, which came from the American ambassador and all his people. It's a wonderful speech. And then someone asked me to do it again when we were in New Zealand, and we did it for an audience, which was very nice. It had a sort of a life beyond the show, and of course I could do it differently then. That's what was nice as well, was having a chance to do it slightly differently from the way we did it on the programme. They're great words.
Now, in my opinion, Heaven Sent is a masterpiece. It's certainly one of my favourite episodes of Series 9. But how did you feel when you were told you'd be doing an episode on your own?
Well, it's odd. People kept saying to me, there's going to be this episode and you're just going to be in it on your own. And I couldn't really figure out what that meant. I thought, how could I be in an episode on my own? So I couldn't imagine what it was. But I was quite excited about it because I knew, you know, Stephen would come up with a wonderful idea. But when I read it, I was just blown away. I thought it was an amazing story. But I also was nervous because I thought, well, you know, it's just me and I don't know how many faces I can pull. So it was challenging, but I knew Rachel was directing it, Rachel Talale, and she's brilliant. And I knew she had lots of ideas about how to do it. And so I knew we were in very safe hands. Jamie, who played the Vale, is fantastic. He also played Colony South in the earlier Dalek story. He was lovely to have around, but obviously his hands were full, his claws were full with what he was doing.
So, as a fan, was it a massive thrill to go to the Doctor's home planet Gallifrey? And are there any other worlds from Doctor Who that you'd like to visit?
Well, Mondas, obviously, as you know. I'd like to get to Mondas. Gallifrey was great, yeah. It was a bit more tropical than I had anticipated it would be. I always thought it looked more like Shepherd's Bush, or Television Centre in particular. What other planets? Yeah, I'd like to go back to Vortis and see what our Zarbi and Menopta would look like if we could spend the money that they didn't have on them now. And yeah, I'd like to do that. Axos, I'd like to go to Axos and see how the Axons are getting on. Plenty of places to go, lots of new places to go too. And nice to go to Earth at various different times. I'd like to go and see the moon landing from the moon. So to be hiding behind a rock there, watch that all going on, with them not realising that they were being watched. Perhaps that's what happened, perhaps they were being watched. That's an episode right there.
Well, obviously this series saw the departure of Jenna Coleman's Clara. Have you recovered from this emotional exit, and what are your hopes for the new companion?
Yeah, no, it was really sad. It was very sad to say goodbye to Jenna. I didn't want her to go. She looked after me so well, and we had a great working relationship. She was a brilliant actress, and a wonderful friend. Just great to have around. I sort of don't really, I haven't done a series without her, so I sort of really don't quite believe that she won't be there when we go back. But she won't be, there'll be a new person in it. That's going to be very exciting, because it's a wonderful part which I know about. The person's going to be very exciting, and I think everybody's going to really enjoy it. But it's going to be a whole different tone. It's in a way it's going to be like discovering Doctor Who all over again, which is nice, which is what happens to Doctor Who with people. But no, Jenna, I'm thrilled that she's doing so well, and you know, she's a brilliant actress. She's going to do so much brilliant stuff, and maybe we'll see her again. Maybe the Doctor will see her again. I don't know.
Well, The Husbands of River Song is a straight-up comedy piece, and on the show we loved seeing the Doctor react to the interior of the TARDIS. And also just seeing the Doctor laugh, because it's obviously something we've not seen very much of. Did you enjoy the change of tone, and will we see more of this in Series 10?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's interesting as we go into the past here and look at these older Doctors, just to see how so many of them were, Patrick Troughton is the impish, warm one. And Tom Baker will revisit some of that. But both John Pertwee and William Hartnell had a kind of severity about them, which I think is quite fitting to the role. And it's trying to get all of those things to coexist, I guess. So yeah, I like when we have a laugh. I like when we have gags. But I don't like when the Doctor is just simply a clown. Tom Baker was never just a clown. He had an enormous kind of range of, oh, my pencil's breaking. He had an enormous range of expressions which could also communicate a kind of weird alienness. So, you've got to be likeable. So I guess maybe we were trying to make the Doctor likeable. I always find him likeable.